All right. This is TravelGuruVT, and as promised, this is the extended version of the My Journey to 4,000 Watch Hours video. Let's toast. Yeah, when I made that first video, I was 150 hours away roughly from the big 4,000, and that video was made at like 3 in the morning on break at work. But I was hoping I would hit it that weekend, but that didn't happen. It took me like another week or so from that point, from the time that I made that video before I actually hit it. Maybe a little even over a week, but roughly about a week from the time that video came out. But about 3 days ago, I finally hit it. So but I'm glad I finally did. Much appreciation to everybody that played a part in that from the beginning up until the day that the numbers were official and it came through. But as promised, I said I would make this video that would be a little more in depth, that would explain my personal journey and process from then till now. Because that other video was on break, it was a little rushed, this, that, and the fourth. So let's get into it. And today we are sipping on Head Snapper Prosecco Rosé. Nothing special, just run-of-the-mill grocery store pickup. It does the job. But go ahead and let's see. There you go. Nothing special, but does the job for $10, $11, depending on where you stay at, where you get it at. But yeah, I'll take it all the way back. As I was saying in the video, my journey officially started with Mexico in 2024, I believe it was, February. But to keep it a buck, I would have to go back even further. I wasn't doing the channel then, but the idea was floating around when I'll take it back to, I believe it was April 23. First time I went to Hawaii. First time I went to Hawaii, that blew my mind. Back then I was on that that timeline, that schedule that a lot of people typically live on. Where you take one, maybe two vacations a year if you're lucky. But that particular trip was more of a makeup honeymoon because COVID had ruined the original honeymoon. That's a whole nother story, but that's how the first Hawaii trip came about. But once we took that trip, the thoughts was in the air, and the experience going over there was, just out of this world. It's literally, if you haven't been to Hawaii, I encourage you to go. Like, it is magical the moment you step off the plane. You're walking through that open air airport, going to go get your bags, and you step outside, get your Uber, your Lyft. You take one of those random limos that come up, to hit you for the $50 if you're going to Waikiki, however you choose to leave the airport and get to where you're going, go for it. But the YouTube thought was in my head then, but it wasn't anything I wanted to pursue at that moment. I just wanted to enjoy it, the moment I was in at the time. Just make sure this mic is on. I couldn't see the light, but we're still rolling. So that was there. I was thinking like, man, I'd like to do this more often, but the cost, was pretty steep. And back then, I wasn't really on to travel hacking and finding deals on tickets and hotels, and I wasn't really into, or I wasn't aware, I should say, of figuring out how to get the cost down on stuff. So that trip actually birthed a couple of things. It birthed TravelGuruVT LLC, and it birthed the YouTube channel as well. Um, I'll speed it up just a little bit for you guys because I think we're on 5-6 minutes already. I don't want to hold you too long on the preface of the story, but get back from Hawaii, feeling great, start doing research, and figure out there are cheaper ways to get there, cheaper times a year to get there. You know, rooms that are just as good as the ones that we stayed in with a better price point, different times of the year. So I started learning the game a little bit. And then the Mexico trip came about in February 24, I believe it was. And that trip was, pretty good. My first all inclusive, whole family went. I believe that was 7 nights, 8 days. But that was an expensive trip. You know, I kind of kicked myself a little bit, like I said in the other video, because I didn't do any, real research. I just figured, I'm gonna go out here and film a bunch of stuff, and just start my YouTube journey from there. But like I said in the previous video, I didn't. I was shooting everything in shorts format for the most part. Well, everything was shot in shorts format. As far as nothing was in 16:9. There were some longer videos, but nothing was shot in 16:9. So a lot of the early content on the channel was like that. If you go back in the catalog and look, you'll see, um, especially the Flight Deals Travel series, you'll see a lot of that early footage was like that. A lot of the Rio footage from Mexico, from Rio Dunamar trip, that footage is like that. I call it shorts form or cell phone form, because that's the way I shot it. But at some point in the game, I started, reading more and doing more research and getting hip to it, and switched over to doing my stuff in 16:9, and just paying more attention to other YouTubers and doing a little more research, and started tweaking my stuff a little bit. But after the Mexico trip, big shout out to Spirit. I know they get a lot of flack, but I believe they had the #1 or #2 safety record out of domestic airlines when I was flying them in 24. When I started the series, like, I've never had any of those issues that people had. People that complain online about Spirit with the flights and other things that happen. But I've always had a great experience. I caught a ton of great flights from Spirit. At unbelievable prices that they don't even do anymore for most destinations, just because they've gone through those financial issues and restructured. However many times now. But like I said, I've been to Detroit for $50 round trip, Myrtle Beach, 40-50 bucks, Charlotte, Nashville. At one point I had a bunch of points built up with them, and I went to St. Thomas for $26 and like 7,000-8,000 points. My first trip to San Jose, Costa Rica, points and a few dollars, from through Spirit. Like, Spirit has taken me a lot of places, and back then you could upgrade for the low too. Like, I think like back then, $20-30 you could get an exit row seat. So on those longer flights, if you got that extra $20-30, I would definitely spend it if I had it. 'Cause it came in handy. And a lot of times on Spirit, people weren't buying those seats, so you would end up having the row to yourself. So it was, Spirit was really influential and instrumental in jumping off my YouTube journey. It enabled me to move around a lot. That first season, it was literally every other week. Work a week, jump on a flight, go somewhere, do some stuff, come back. And as far as the hotels, I would try to stay under $100 a night. Occasionally I would have to, bump it up to 105, 110, something like that. But I felt like I always got a pretty good deal for the money. Hyatt, just I say I don't want to drag certain parts of the story too much, but just go check out, the older footage, the playlist. There's a hotel walkthrough playlist, so you can check out all the places I've stayed on this journey as well. And as far as food, I try to keep it basic because my whole thing was like where I'm from, I live in New England, Vermont, a rural setting for the most part. So like up here, I feel like I don't knock anybody for doing this. I'm just saying me personally, like, I'll see people, they'll let's say they'll let's say they have a weekend off, they'll go to fancy restaurant Friday night, spend, 150, 200. Saturday night, they'll go out for drinks and, whatever, spend another 150, 200. Sunday, they'll go to brunch or, whatever, do something, spend another 100, 150, so, by the end of the weekend, Friday to Sunday, they done spent, 450, 500. They've haven't left town, they've, stayed within a 1 hour radius of their house. And it's like, I just feel like I could, if I've got $500, that I'll just, tricking off to, have a good time. I feel like I could just make better use of the money and, get out of town, if I choose, and that's, part of what I was showing on the, with the Flight Deals travel series, I can, legit get on a flight, get out of town, get a room, go get some good food, and, get back and, have the same amount of fun or more for less money, the majority of the time, a lot less money. If I'm spending the same amount of money, then I'm having a baller time. So that was one point I was glad that I got across, and that actually helped me with promoting the website www.travelguruvt.com. Along that first season journey, did pick up some strategic partnerships with Expedia, hotels.com, Viator for activities, and I feel like I'm forgetting something else, but long story short, check out the website. We do have partnerships with them and Verbo as well. I don't do the other vacation home company, but if you're into Expedia, Airbnb, excuse me, if you're into ExpediaHotels.com or Verbo, if you use any of those, definitely use our website, and book through them. We do get a small commission from the company on the back end, so you pay us nothing. You just book through our website. You still get all your points and rewards through those sites as usual, but they give us a little something on the back end for you booking through us. So if you use those services, just book through us and book as normal, and they take care of us as a thank you for you booking with us, booking through us with them. And as of recently, I'm going to do a video about this soon, but we have partnered up with Cruise Brothers. I know a lot of people have been doing cruises, and I've been telling people, Expedia does offer cruises, but and I've seen this as well. The cruise prices and what they offer on Expedia, they aren't really competitive most of the time. So, a lot of people like to go direct, with the cruise lines or travel agents. So I did hear you guys loud and clear. So I did team up with Cruise Brothers as an affiliate, independent affiliate travel agent. So I can get you those deals as an independent affiliate travel agent. And I can still book you as if you're booking direct with the cruise line. So you can still, once again, get all your rewards and perks as if you're booking directly with the cruise line, but you can book through a travel agent as well and get that personalized touch, still get all your rewards through the cruise line, and still have that that customer service from booking until you get home, so you have somebody you can talk to just in case things go south, or you just have questions in general along the way. So check out the website. The website has been updated. That happened roughly a couple weeks ago. So the website was basic, for the majority of the time since it's been up, but it has been revamped. it's a lot more user friendly now, a lot more colorful. It depicts our mission and our brand a lot more now. So really proud of that. Check it out. You can still book with all our partners. Cruise Brothers is up there right now. You can have personalized booking through me for a cruise, and we also have a self-book option if you're one of those like the Expedias and Verbos. You like to book it yourself. We have a self-book cruise option up there as well if you like to book on your own time and fiddle around and stuff like that. So definitely check out the website www.travelguruvt.com. And if you like self-booking, get that on. If you like the personalized help, the travel questionnaire is still on the website. You can fill that out or email me or shoot me a message here, and you can get that personalized help that you need as well if that's your thing. But back to the story, season 2. And the whole time, I should have mentioned this early on, but the whole time this is out of pocket, no sponsors or anything of that nature. So just keep that in mind. I'm just working, living life. I got a family, but I'm doing, doing my dream, along the way, just funding this out of pocket to make this happen. But along the way, picked up some, fans, subscribers, loyal supporters, all that, along the way. Some really great friends as well. Shout out to all you guys. It's too many to name, everybody in this one video, but you know who you are, everybody that's helped me along the way with this journey. I really appreciate y'all from here. But videos started doing better, content started getting better. Season 2 picked up, started, going to more places, Aruba. Started season 2 off in Detroit. That was fun. Hit the casino, couldn't film in there for, multiple reasons, but that was great. Went to Aruba. Drawing blanks here, guys, but just you got to go back and look at all the old footage. Went to so many places, seen so many things. Been to Punta Cana, goodness, Colorado Springs. That was one trip that fumbled, due to delayed flights. I've rarely had a problem with that. I've had, the delayed flights threats, but that was one of the times where it really like stuck me. I was supposed to go try a bison burger at a restaurant, but flights got delayed due to storms, and we had to take the long way around from Chicago to Colorado Springs instead of the direct route. So I didn't get to try that restaurant, so I ended up door dashing a bunch of stuff. And I made the best of what I could out of that trip. But like I said, it's all on the channel. Check it out. I noticed early summer, I believe it was, or actually late June, early summer, but late June, I started hitting the 1,000, or I hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. I had a couple of shorts that took off, and I gained a few hundred shorts within that week, a few hundred subscribers within that week from a couple of shorts. So that was like, really promising that, the content was stepping up enough that, people are locking in with me now. And, that was, just a real big motivator. And, I just looked at, what I needed to get to that magic number, and I, looked at the stats, I saw it, and then I just kept grinding it out. I went to Guatemala in January. That was beautiful. And I knew if I could get back to Guatemala before Labor Day, that it was a good chance I could make that final push and, get to that 4,000 watch hour point, in this year, this month, September 25. And it actually happened. Went back to Guatemala in August, had a nice stay, got a ton of content that's up on the channel as well. Both Guatemala trips are in the Guatemala playlist, so you'll get to see the January and the August content, and you'll get to see the growth in that as well. But that content helped out a lot. Goodness, just I feel like I'm forgetting so many places. San Jose, Costa Rica, been there twice in the past 12 months. That was so great. Went to El Salvador for the first time this year. That's a beautiful place. I didn't stay in San Salvador, the main city. I stayed on the outskirts in San Luis Talpa, a beach town. I'd call it a semi-inclusive resort. It's right there on the beach. 10 steps away. I call it something like a compound. I'd call it like a zoo. They have like a zoo inside the compound, multiple pools. All sorts of animals, monkeys, parrots. I think they even got deer on one side of the property. The beaches, beautiful black sand beaches, the Pacific Ocean waves are beautiful. There's if you check out the ASMR playlist, you'll see that beautiful beach footage. Like, there's just nothing like it. It's amazing. And people in El Salvador are so nice. That particular property that I stayed at, it came with free breakfast every morning. You purchase your lunch and your dinner, but the prices are very reasonable. Nice hearty portions. They got snacks on deck you can buy too. One thing I'll tell you, that particular town, it is once you're out there. Like, you're not getting Uber. You can get Uber to take you out there from the airport, but Uber is not coming out there to get you. So you can use Uber to get out there, but to get back, you're gonna have to book the hotel transportation there. Guy, he's real cool. I actually used him both ways. And if you book direct with the hotel, you can book him both ways. I booked through Expedia, so he was free from the airport to the facility or the compound, and you pay $35, $40 or $40 with tip to book him from the hotel back to the airport. But it's worth every penny. Personalized service, top notch. He picked you up in a nice Lexus. It's pretty nice. So if you ever want to go to El Salvador and you want to get away, you don't want to do the in-town thing and walk around, you just want to lay up, pools, beach, restaurant on site, that's the place to go. Excuse me. Oh. Wow. Excuse me. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting caught up, but I'm just trying to give you guys, the extended version, like, everything that brought me from then till now, all these trips. Like I said, I feel like I'm forgetting places. Aruba, I kind of skipped over that a little bit. That was a great trip. That was a book through Expedia. That property, we went the end of May, beginning of June, around that cusp, and we had the whole property to ourselves. It's a strip of units. I'd say probably 6-7 units, and they have an infinity pool on the property. And we were the only people staying there that whole 4-night, 5-day time that we were there. But it was very nice. Infinity pool, had the whole place to ourselves. The host on the property, Ursula, so nice. She was cool. She came out and gave us shots some days, while we were at the pool. Like, it was real nice. She hooked up a rental car for us while we were there, and had it delivered to the property. And it was like, I think maybe like $20 a day. Like, it was nothing crazy. It was nothing fancy, but basic car, so we can get around town without relying on cabs or the public transportation. It worked out perfectly. Shout out to Ursula if you're watching this video. I feel like I'm forgetting so many places. So I said this is the extended video, what brought us from nothing to 4,000 watch hours, and also what's to come. What is to come or is started is the ASMR content. Some of the regular subscribers, you're starting to see that now. That will continue. Like I said, I've been a lot of places over the past 18 months on this journey. So sometimes I just want to turn on YouTube and I just want some nice ASMR content, for a couple hours, whether I'm waking up or winding down or I'm just, doing things around the house. Sometimes I just want that ASMR content, the wind or traffic sounds, rain, so I've got a little bit of that, coming to the channel slowly but surely as well. The playlist is up. We got some of that content now, but there's definitely more on the way. So we're doing food, travel, and ASMR content as well now. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Also, the Travel G podcast channel is now up and running. I know I've been talking about that for a while, but it is up and running. We are 4 episodes in now. New episodes will air every Sunday on the Travel G podcast channel. I will leave a link in the description box for that and or the comment section pinned. But everybody please support that. It is really good. Had a lot of great guests so far, a lot more great guests to come. Aiming for every Sunday. We missed the last Sunday, or the Sunday before last due to the Labor Day weekend, holiday weekend. But on a regular schedule, every Sunday we'll have a new episode, new guests, and some guests will be returning at certain times. But every Sunday is what we're aiming for, a new episode. So definitely, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast channel, definitely keep that in mind. We'll be talking about various things with different people, but the travel aspect will always be threaded in there throughout each episode on the channel. Let's see. So just trying to make sure I don't leave out any destinations, because St. Thomas, I told you, I got a super deal to go there, some Spirit points and $26, but that was a nice, beautiful trip in itself. The water out there is pristine. People out there are lovely. Food was excellent. That was one place. I didn't stay at a hotel. It was a independent place. Tillett Gardens, I believe it was. That footage is on the channel as well. And the way the place was set up, I didn't get footage of the room, but it was for the price you couldn't beat it. It was $50 a night, but the way it was set up, you had to book it. To get that price, you had to book 3 nights, which worked out perfectly in my situation. And it was like one of those kind of all-in-one places where they had a room on deck, and they had a common area where I guess a common area, for lack of a better phrase, but where they had like couches and chairs and stuff like that. They had an indoor common area, I should say, and then they had the outdoor common area with the outdoor seating, and there was a bar/restaurant on property as well, where you could go get your drinks and chips and snacks, and some nights they had live music and things of that nature as well. So shout out to Tillett Gardens and everybody over there. The place was real nice. But St. Thomas was beautiful. The only thing I didn't like about St. Thomas was the cab situation. There's no Uber or Lyft over there, which is not a problem, but as far as getting your own like cab over there, like that's just really not happening, just because of the way the island is set up and things like that. Like 9 times out of 10 you call for a cab, you're not getting your own cab. It's ride share for real. Like you call for a cab, you'll get a ride, but most likely you're gonna share the ride with somebody else to or from your destination. I guess in all fairness, to keep the prices efficient. If you want a private ride from A to B, there's definitely going to be some extra inflation in the price. And the island is real hilly and stuff, so I didn't want to rent a car and deal with all that either. So it was for the time I was there and for what I was doing, it was worth it. They do have the I forgot what they call the public transit out there. I don't want to say buses, because they're not quite buses, but they're the trucks with the beds on the back with the rows of seats. But those were pretty cheap and those were pretty cool, but there was no like certified schedule to find on those. Like I just found like they started at like 6 or 6:30 in the morning, and they ran to like 6:30 in the evening, something like that. But and they only ran they didn't run everywhere on the island. They ran like main routes. But I would use those during the day to like get to the beach, and then I would usually like have to take one of the ride shares to get back when I wanted to get back to where I was staying at from the beaches. Because the bus thing was weird. Like they would pick you up on one side of the street, but they wouldn't come back that way, or they would come back on the other side of the street at a weird time. But So it was easier just to take the bus to get to where I was going. And then when I was ready to get back, just take one of the ride shares. And if you took one from, like, the popular beach area, everybody was going to a general part of town, it generally made it a lot more cost efficient. Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, the Riu Palace Bavaro. That was another all-inclusive. Oh, I do have direct booking access with Riu. There's not a self-book link for that on the website, but if you want to go to a Riu all-inclusive, I can book you with that as well. Just shoot me a message here, email, or the travel questionnaire on the website. I can always get you the best deal on that. And I can beat any deal that you find on a Riu resort by at least 5%. I'm the dude to hit for Riu Resort. So hit me up. I can make it happen. And we can even make those special things happen. If it's a birthday, anniversary, hit me up. I can do something special, like, tell them, have the bottle in the room when you arrive, or, have the towels folded like a little, swan or something on the bed. Hit me up. You trying to do the Riu all inclusive, and I can make it happen. And if you want the little extra special touches, we can make that happen too. All right, this video is at 30 minutes, but still, I want to get into this with you guys a little more. Riu, excellent place. Some people knock Riu's. I love Riu resorts. All you can eat, all you can drink. I love going there because all that's taken care of. I just bring a fat stack of one so I can tip the whole time I'm there. Have a great time. Tip everybody. Tip the tip the housekeeper staff that comes to clean the room every day. Tip the waiters, tip the bartenders. Tip everybody all day long. It's cool. I love going to Riu's. Have a good time all day long. If you're tipping people, you're gonna get that top-notch service. You're gonna get top-notch service anyway. Tipping is optional, but be a good human being and tip. And you going to Riu's, so you don't have to tip crazy like you do in the United States. Nobody's looking for 20 or 30% of this and that. Like, tip $1 with each drink you pick up at the bar. Tip $2 to $3 per person. With each meal that you get. It's nothing crazy. Just be a good human, and it's gonna work out for you. But Riu's are good. Beautiful beaches, beautiful pools. Plenty of food options, plenty of drink options. And if it's a group of adults and you're at a property with Elite Club and you get the Elite Club option, you get that top shelf liquor. You get the Don Julio, get the Grey Goose, Absolute. You get the the better liquor if you're at a property with Elite Club and you do the Elite Club option. So that's and you also get the Elite Club restaurant and the Elite Club lounge, and the Elite Club pool and the Elite Club beach space with the oceanfront cabanas. There's footage on all that on the channel as well. Just look up the Dominican Republic playlist, Punta Cana playlist. All that's there as well. But I said all that to say all this. I had a lot of fun and did a lot of things, and so glad I was able to do what I love to get to 4,000 watch hours. And I can't wait to see what this next 18 months brings, because I was able to do a whole lot in the first 18 months. And I just can't wait to see what these next 18 months brings. And I've said I've been to a lot of places in the US, went to a lot of Caribbean destinations, been to Puerto Rico probably 5 times in the last 18 to 24 months. Didn't even mention that, but I feel like I do need to drop this gem because people have been asking me about this lately at work and stuff. But me personally, when I go to Puerto Rico, I like to stay at the Hampton Inn in Isla Verde because they have the free happy hour from, I don't know if it's 4 to 6 or 5 to 7, but the room might be a little pricey depending on what time of year you go, but that's free booze and snacks by the pool. And when the happy hour isn't going, they still have a swim up bar where you can buy drinks, free full breakfast in the morning, and it's a 5-minute walk to the beach from that hotel. And they have a dedicated beach area or beach club where you can go as well. And so, you don't have to worry about looking for beach space, a chair, watching your stuff, none of that. So everything is good and taken care of if you stay at that hotel, and it's convenient. There's also plenty of restaurants in walking distance. In 10 to 12 minutes walking distance, you have plenty of local independent restaurants, like Metropole is, everybody loves Metropole. That's the local favorite. There's some other local favorites in that area as well. But if you're like me, a YouTuber, and just like checking out the chain stuff as well, just to see what it's like in other places, you have Burger King down the street, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, Church's Chicken, um, Taco Bell. Taco Bell serves margaritas and Coronas there. So, I travel all these places so I can experience these gems for myself and bring these gems to you guys. So, like I said, I'm sure I'm forgetting more places than I'm remembering right now, but like I said, my journey to 4,000 hours has been great. I'll drop these last few gems because we're almost at 40 minutes, but definitely take advantage of using your hashtags and keywords. I wasn't doing that for the longest. And, I started, like I said, reading and doing my research and looking at other channels in my niche and seeing what they were doing to get popping. And, over time, I ended up going back on a lot of my videos and putting in hashtags and keywords and things like that, and updating thumbnails as well has helped me out. And, things have been, I can see the growth and, those videos and stuff just from updating those things over time. Even videos that are, almost 2 years old and stuff, they're, gaining some steam, late in the game, just from updating, keywords, hashtags, and thumbnails and stuff. So definitely, go back, do the basics, if you're already in the game. If you're not in the game, I definitely encourage you just to, do the basic research, before you get started, just so you have the best chance at making your channel succeed from the jump. It took me 18 months to get to 4,000 hours, and, people that are, doing the research before they get started, there's a lot of people that can, hit it in a week, with the subscribers and the watch hours. So, to each his own. It's not a race, it's a marathon at the end of the day. Like I said, this channel is up now on both sides with the subs and the hours. Just starting off the podcast channel now. So, hopefully we can get this where it needs to be in less than 18 months. So that's the next goal. But I want to thank you guys once again. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. If this is your first time watching TravelGuruVT, check out the podcast channel as well. If you haven't, I don't know what else to say to you guys. Just thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a long journey, and just, like I said, it's been a long journey. I had to put everything on started out with the old chain when I first started. A few months down the road, I got this old chain when at TravelGuruVT was the logo. Started with this little small one, still got it. And I think the first giveaway was at 250 subscribers or 500 subscribers. The first giveaway was one of these. So shout out to that subscriber that got one of these. And at the 1,000 subscriber giveaway, that subscriber got one of these, and that subscriber is on the podcast. So I believe that's episode 3. So subscribe to TravelGuruVT. I'm sorry, Travel G Podcast. I'm probably been saying this wrong the whole time, but Travel G Podcast is the podcast channel. But the 1,000 subscriber giveaway, the winner got the big piece, with the new logo. So, definitely keep tuning in to us. Kind of bubbling over the words right now, but it's all good. But I'm going to actually see if I can reach out to the person that won this. And I still can't remember if that was the 250 subscriber giveaway or the 500, but I'm going to reach out and see if we can get them on the podcast. But I'm going to end it off right here. I think we probably at like 40 minutes right now. I know you guys got better things to do, but I definitely told you guys I would give you an expanded video or extended video once we got to 4,000 watch hours. So had to make good on that. You know, some time finally came around. You know, it's been crazy busy lately, but got to make sure we take care of the home base first. But this is TravelGuruVT. We have officially hit 4,000 watch hours and over 1,000 subscribers in a little over 18 months, and I can't wait to see what the next 18 months brings. We'll be back with you soon, all right? Peace.